Welcome everyone. Let's start the seminar. We're very happy to have Liang Li from Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior and University of Constance, and he's going to tell us about schooling fish from biology to robotics and back.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for inviting, and also thanks a lot for the opportunity to present our preliminary studies. So I'm Liang Li from Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior and University of Constance. It's natural that we see fish, they have amazing swimming abilities in like those water environment. They can, whatever things they can really handle. It's amazing. They can jump out of the water. If there's an object inside, they can go through, very kind of smoothly, easily. If you ask a robot to do this, it's amazing. Robots cannot do that. Then it's natural that engineers, especially like robotics, they turn to these species as an inspiration to build different prototypes of robots. So here are examples of fish robots. They are built basically inspired by different aspects of the real fish system, such as the morphology, such as the way they consume the power, and also the way they move together and so on. So although they have different prototypes, they have different purpose of building these robots, but they have one thing in common, that is bio-inspiration. So what is bio-inspiration? In simple, that is kind of just learning the concept from nature. Imagine, you see the fish that swim forward just by body undulation, and then you wonder if you can also create a machine which can also move forward just by body undulation instead of those propelling. So to do so, we basically inspired by the structure of the real fish system. So we find in real fish body, there are two main characters. One is flexible in left-right direction. The other one is incompressible in longitudinal direction, like the front-back direction. So we build those robots with 3 joints of motors, and those motors, of course, is incompressible in front-back direction, but flexible in left-right direction. So it's very simple idea. And besides the hardware, we are also interested in those software-inspired controller for those robots. So here we took a central pattern generator-inspired controller. CPG is widely existed in a lot of animal systems, including our human body. So what is CPG then? CPG is kind of neural network, which can receive high level but low dimensional signal and then decode to low level but high dimensional signals. So how to understand this looks very complicated. So I'll give you a very simple example. Imagine this morning you want to take a bus here to take this seminar, and before you get to the bus station, you see the bus is already there. What will you think in your brain? You will think run to catch up the bus, right? You never think about what exact frequency of your leg you should use, what exact amplitude of the leg you should use, what the phase of the leg you should use to catch up the bus. So in this case, the high level, low dimensional signal is run to catch up the bus, and the low level, high dimensional signals are those detailed frequency, amplitude to drive your muscles, to move your legs, and to reach the task, run. So the CPG kind of bridges these two. So similarly here, we also designed this CPG controller for robot fish, which can make it for us very easy to control robots, and then all of the detailed things are taken care of by the controller here. Often after we build this hardware and software, we want to test this robot system, right? But before we go to the real physical robot, we first do simulations. So in this case, we just did a very simple simulation, like make the robot swing forward, turning with different undulation patterns, and also trying to optimize for swing backward. Okay, so after we simulation, we find those transition movements looks a bit natural. and then we want to test with real robot system. So this kind of, we put the same controller for the physical inspired robot fish, and we control the robot swing with different oscillation patterns, like sinusoid or sawtooth oscillations, and also optimized for swim backward, although this is not natural in real fish system. And also you find the robotic fish swim backward is not as efficient as swim forward, but it can. And then we wanted to challenge our robotic fish to see whether the robot fish can capture the detailed kinematics of the fish system with both hardware and software inspired system. And we see they do kind of similar in the aspect of kinematics. After those, we go back to nature again, and we find in nature most fish, the swim improves. Then the natural question is, can your robot do, right? Can you make your robot swim in a groove? So to do so, we need to build another pair of hardware and software. So the hardware is basically kind of a big tank, and above it, you have a camera to capture the robot position. And then you have a software which basically do the tracking to get the posture information of the robot, and also send the controller commands to the robot to make the robot move. So this is kind of the pair of the hardware and software we built. And after that, we give a very simple task for 3 robotic fish to test our hypothesis of basically platform. And so here we asked 3 robotic fish to cover a full circle uniformly. So every 2 fish, they have the same distance between. To finish this task, we also need to have different levels of controllers. So there's a high-level controller. This high-level controller basically tells every step where the robot should move in the next one. So in the simulation step, like at this time, this robotic fish in this position.
That's the touch screen.
Okay.
Double click again, and then it goes.
Okay. At this position, like what the robotic fish here in the next step should be, right? This is kind of tell, okay, where you should go, and the bottom level controller just take care how I will go there, right? So, one of the difficulty of the bottom level controller is kind of the turbulence generated by the robotic fish system, because you naturally swim in the water, it will generate turbulence, and it's very hard to model. So we took a very simple model-free controller, it's active disturbance rejection controller, and to kind of take care of those bottom level difficult or challenging tasks. And before we deploy to the real physical robot platform, we of course first do simulations. So to check the bottom level controller, whether it's effective or not, we first did simulations. And then within those simulations, we can tune the parameters, we can optimize for the controller. And then once we get the optimized controller, we can put back to the real physical robot system to see whether those controller and also the control parameters are good or not. So in this case, we tested, and also because robotic fish, they cannot swim backward effectively. So at some case, you have to have a U-turn to reach the target pose. And in this case, you also need to optimize the parameters for the controller, and also you needed to tune the parameters and first run in the simulations, and then get the parameters and back to the real physical platform. So this similarity performance between the simulation and also physical platform indicate that our controller and also the simulation platform are quite good. And after that, we can move to the final test. Basically, did I draw the line here? Can I?
Oh.
I don't know how to get rid of this.
There's here. getting used by flying. Yeah, it was, or I mean, yeah, a goal for the fish to go to.
You did? Okay, so that one.
Doesn't do anything. Hey. Huh? Ah,
Okay.
okay. Oh, okay. Never saw that. Okay.
Okay, so we initialized the 3 robotic fish, they random initialized this random position stuff, and then automatically controlled 3 robots to cover a full circle, and then we also testing to a challenging step with 3 robots cover just half circle. Yes, question? Okay. Just to cover a half circle, so the distance between 2 robots will be even closer, turbulence inflection will be even stronger, and we don't change the parameter, don't change the controller, and still work.
So this is just you ask them to do this.
Yes.
Not that they self-organize themselves and did that.
Yeah, this is an engineering problem, so it's like we designed on purpose to make them do this. So it's not really like emerged like
Right.
No. The turbulence reflection turbulence effects could be indicated by the light reflection there. You can see how strong the turbulence is. So after those, I realized most of my projects are always kind of from biology to robotics. I never thought in the other way, like we have robots, whether we can use these robots to answer some question in biologic studies. So, and because of this, I moved to Constance within the Department of Biology to study biologic questions using robots. So the first question we try to answer is, why do fish school? This is a very old question. A lot of people already proposed a lot of different hypotheses, such as living in groups, they can have higher chance to survive if they are facing a predator. And also if they are hunting food together, they can hunting more effectively. Or if they live together, they can sense the environment faster and more precise. And the other hypothesis is when fish swim together, they can extract energy from the flow shared by the neighbor. So they can extract energy from the flow generated by the neighbors. They call like energy saving in fish school. This hypothesis is originally kind of proposed by Daniel Weiss, and he first just mathematically let you guys just do modeling and then analyze it and say, okay, fish swim in the diamond formation could save maximum energy. And then Tony Pitcher, who is a biologist, and he found this hypothesis and got interested in it. So he wants to test it with the real fish system. So he did experiments with different species, and he found none of the species performed diamond formation. And he said, fish probably they don't really swim together for energy saving. Mark Abrahams, he is also a biologist, and he saw kind of debate between these 2 guys. And then he think the Tony Pitcher's conclusion could be a bit strong. Why? Because in nature, in nature you can see fish, they have lots of things to react, not only energy saving. Right? If there's a predator around, they will first react to the predator rather than save energy. And also, if you measure energy cost stuff, this can't get rid of the stress effect. For example, if fish are very social and you put the fish swim alone, then they will be very stressed because I'm alone, right? I'm social fish. I have to be social. If you put me in alone, then I will cost more energy. And this energy cost is not because of hydrodynamics, it's just because of stress. So how to get rid of all of those facts? The best way is get a physical model. And the physical model could be robotic fish. So we have a pair of robotic fish swimming in the flow tank with different spatial temporal formations. And we can measure energy cost of the robot without any stress effect. And also we can visualize the flow interactions to know how they manage to save energy if they save energy. Before that, we always need to justify whether your robotic fish model is good to study these hydrodynamic interactions or not. And the way to justify is basically kind of visualize the flow generated by the robot and compare that to the real fish system. And we all know when fish swim forward, they generate reverse common vortex. And we visualize the vortex generated by the robotic fish where they swims forward. We also find the reverse common vortex, which is very nice, which indicates that the vortex, at least in the morphological level, is very similar to reverse common vortex system. And then we took this robotic fish to study two main factors in group swimming. One is front-back distance. The other one is the phase difference. Front-back distance is easy to understand, but phase difference basically describes the relative undulation pattern. If phase difference 0 means the in phase, like you turn left, I turn left, you turn right, I turn right. If phase difference is pi, indicates two robotic fish that swim out of phase. You turn left, I turn right. You turn right, I turn left. So it's opposite. And we measure energy cost of the robot swim in groups and comparing the energy cost when the robot with the same pattern swim alone. And then based on that, we can calculate whether energy saving happens when the robots swim in groups. The blue one means energy saving and red one means energy cost. And if you look at the blue area, you find there's a linear correlation between the phase difference and the front-back distance, right? Something like those. And then we wonder why this linear correlation. So we extracted 3 points from those linear lines, and we select 3 typical optimal spatial temporal formations for the follower to save maximum energy. So the distance, front-back distance is different, and phase difference is also different. But they are all saving maximum energy for the follower. And what we find through those flow visualization is that when the follower flattens the tail in the same direction of the coming flow, then the robot will save energy. To visualize it is very simple, like this way. So the reverse common vortex will like shed behind the fish, and there's an induced flow because of vortex rotating, like this way. Then there's an induced flow in that direction. So the flow comes in this way, and if the tail also flat in this way, then the follower will save energy. If against the coming flow, then it will cost more energy. So it's very easy, very natural idea about energy saving stuff. And then based on that, we can have a very simple rule which can describe the optimal phase difference for the follower to save maximum energy. And that is also denoted with the dotted line here. And the rule is very simple. We don't need to know detailed or exact the vortex information to calculate what is the optimal phase difference for the follower to save maximum energy. You just need to measure the kinematics information and also the spatial information stuff. And then you can estimate what is the optimal phase difference for the follower to save maximum energy. And because of the model is so simple, so we wonder if real fish also do that with this model or not. So we run experiments with real fish system in the flow tank, and we record from side view and also from bottom. And
sorry, the robotic thing you had before, was it in a flow tank?
Yes.
Okay, it seemed like they were always in the same position.
Yes, exactly.
But there's a flow going on?
In the robotic system, yeah. there is also flow tank.
Okay.
It's also this kind of flow tank with a flow. The robotic fish, they fix there with different coming flow and with different spatial temporal formations.
Okay, but somehow they don't go against the flow. That's what I mean. They don't swim against the flow. They're stuck in the same position.
Yes, they are stuck in the same position. Yes.
But why? Why don't they try to swim up?
Because that is an engineering system. You can control it, right?
Okay.
If you measure
the real fish will try to blow up, no?
Yes, the real fish will be always dynamic to change it. It won't be like just one point.
Right.
But with engineering system, you can measure the thrust generated at this point, right? And then you can estimate whether at this point with this undulation pattern, it will move forward or backward, like with the
Okay.
acceleration stuff there.
Okay.
Can you control also the speed of the flow, like the?
Yeah, we can also.
Say,
You can also control the flow stuff to always keep the balance, like loss resultant force be zero, like always balanced there. But then that will be more complicated.
Can you go back to this?
Yes,
To the slides?
come back 2 slides.
Really?
Oh, sorry, this is a go. Yeah,
Yeah, this one.
yes,
So if the heads are very close together, they should be in phase. Then a bit far away, they should be out phase.
Yes.
A bit further, they should be in phase again.
yes,
And at some point, there's no then.
yes. There's no interactions. Yeah, no benefits. Yes.
Then talking about this flow, so does this picture depend on the flow speed?
It depends on the flow speed.
That significantly or qualitatively, I mean, in the sense that do the low and the highs really change if you increase or lower the speed, or is just the average?
From this rule, so if the flow speed is here, right? So it's kind of affecting the ratio. So if the flow, yes.
So it's there.
Yeah, so if the flow is different, then the ratio will be different. Like the line of what looks like there's a delay.
But there's a sort of the qualitative behavior is the same, it's just another angle.
Yeah, exactly. You can change
okay.
the ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the flow, you can, imagine if flow comes, very fast, then the flow, then you need to also adjust like what, when the first very close, usually to be in phase and then out of phase. That depends on the flow moves, like the vortex moves along your body.
What do you see in nature? More in phase or more out phase?
Okay, so this, we're back to nature. So basically, we use the robotic system to generate some hypothesis, and then we back to biological system to test whether also biological system could perform something we find in the physical or engineering system. So basically, we first need to get data based on vision, and also based on deep learning stuff, we can get the detailed posture stuff, and also we can get the relative undulation pattern stuff, and also frequency, pair beat, amplitude, all of those things we need for our rule. And then we can compare the model predictions, like what is optimal phase difference for the follower to perform to save maximum energy, which is denoted by the black dots here. And the gray dots are what we measure the phase difference performed by the real fish system. And we see they match quite well. And in biological system, you can't really get a conclusion just with one group of data. So we need to pool all data together. So whenever they are closer, we measure what is the phase difference the two fish performed. And then we have a model to predict what is the optimal one for the follower to perform at that case. So we pulled a very large number of data here. So for each beam, like whenever they have a very close front-back distance, then we measure what is the phase difference there, and then we have the color to stands for the probability of which phase they are using here. So that phase difference also depends on where you are relatively in the front-back distance aspect. And also we did a random test here. So the random test basically we have 2 trials. In one trial, we swap one individual to another trial. So in this case, and so basically we have the fish data in this trial, and then we swap to the other fish in the other trial. And in this case, we analyze this, interact with this, and this interact with this. So in this case, they don't have real physical. Yes.
Oh yeah, my question was, are these fish the same? Because I can imagine that if one is longer than the other, it's going to make quite a difference.
Yes, similar size.
Yeah.
15 centimeters. So in this case, we have this fish virtually interact with this one, and this one virtually interact with this one, and then we do the same analysis like this, and we see the pattern goes. So this indicates if the 2 fish merge with this pattern, they have to kind of physically interact. This indicates the hydrodynamics matter there. And then we wonder, how do fish can sense the flow and then react accordingly to save energy, right? How they manage to do this.
So can I just ask, because there's this difference between the theory and the data. You know, the black line, you have the black.
Yes, black is basically, or this case is bad for saving energy. So the white one basically kind of should be like this.
Yeah, I'm just asking why you don't have the same.
This is
exact
because
same
this
picture.
is real fish.
Yeah, I know.
There are a lot of
Biology.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
sure, but but
as I mentioned.
is it the hydrodynamic interactions you cannot model in theory, or what is that? You know,
The easy answer would be, as I mentioned before, fish in reality they will consider more factors than energy saving.
okay.
When they move together, they can, not for energy saving at this time, but next time they might consider for energy saving.
They might consider what's that?
At this time, they are not considering for energy saving, but next time they might consider for energy saving. And then we pour all together because we can't distinguish them, and we can't read the mind of the fish.
I get that. Yes.
So what we can do is just, phenomenally, we just, okay, they are very close. They're supposed to save energy. Then we pour all those data together like this.
I mean, it's one crucial thing. So you talk about front back difference, but not about
Left right distance.
yeah, why not?
So first we do. We are not published yet, but we will publish very soon. Second, the most important thing is the front back distance, because the vortex goes front back. The vortex also expands in the left right distance, but not very weak comparing to the front back distance. And second, our experimental platform has limitations. The width of the flow tank is limited. We can't really test it too much there.
Okay.
So about energy saving for from the sensory modalities stuff. So with fish, we probably know there are two main sensory modalities. One is the vision, like us. They heavily rely on vision to interact with others. And the other one is a lateral line, which can sense the flow pressure around. So we kind of blocked this one or two of those sensory modalities, and we find this pattern kind of are still there. And then looks like fish are not necessary to have these two sensory modalities to sense the flow and then react to save maximum energy when the swim improves. Then the question would be how they manage to do what else sensory modalities could be used for the fish to do this.
Sorry, can I just ask what it means, lateral line impaired?
Yeah, lateral line. So based on the word, it's a line over the lateral of the fish. So it's basically kind of pressure sensor, like a tube. So there are two types. One type is a tube around the fish body line, and if the flow goes in, they can sense the pressure there. What's the pressure on the flow there? For example, the depth, And the second is it's like a hair system. If the flow bangs the hair, then they will have neural signal sense it, and they know what's the flow there.
And you can impair it somehow.
Yes.
But in the robot, in the
real fish.
In the real fish.
Yeah, robot fish we can.
Yeah, we can do whatever.
Yeah.
And the vision in the real fish.
You just turn off the light.
So what's the explanation that in your vision impaired, you actually have a better agreement with the theory?
Yeah, well, this
They want to save more energy if it's dark.
This indicates, this could be, so one of the things I didn't explain here is kind of the data amount, the percentage of data collected here.
Okay.
Like with both light and also lateral line, actually they spend less time really swimming together. And when it's dark, and also when, especially when it's dark, the fish will swim together more comparing to in the normal light condition. It's kind of like, like us, if we're, in the sort of threatened environment, then we should stay together. This is my hypothesis. Not, I don't have any
You
better to.
didn't write that down.
Yeah. Okay, so
But that the agreement with theory is independent, like the front back distance didn't shorten. It just that fit the theory, so you save more energy, but the front back distance is still the same bit as before.
yeah, the front back distance, yes, exactly. So yeah, sorry, I think this one's calculated to here from like
Yeah.
the same range.
But so that means like in the dark, they optimize the energy, but the variability in the front back distance didn't decrease.
If you just measure the front back distance, the distribution of the front back distance, I think that will be different. But from our case, we are more interested in, at specific distance, what's the optimal phase the fish perform. And the range we are interested in is from 0 to 0.5 body lengths. So we just look at those. But if you're interested in like whether they will have closer front back distance when they swim in dark versus when they swim in normal light, I don't know. I guess this should be true, but I don't know. I can't give you the conclusion. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of the main take-home message of this slide should that be that vision and lateral line are not really important for schooling.
For energy saving.
Energy saving.
Yeah, exactly. So another hypothesis is proprioceptive sensing. So which means the tail itself could be a sensor. So how to understand that? Like our hand, we don't have any lateral lines things to sense flow. But if you put your hand in the flow, you can feel how strong the flow is and which direction it comes from. Right. So basically the tail itself, when it is propelling, they can also sense the flow direction of some low dimensional flow information, not as high dimensional as lateral line do. But it's very hard to test this with zero fish system, because if you block the proprioceptive sensing of a fish, then fish can't swim, and then you come back to better than. Then again, we asked the help with engineering systems. We did computational fish and also robot fish. And we test this hypothesis just with very low dimensional proprioceptive sensing, and we find that's already enough for the fish to evolve the optimal phase to save energy in a very dynamic vortex environment. So this indicates that fish, in principle, they can, but we are still not able to conclude yet, like whether fish, they can just rely on proprioceptive sensing until it is possible and very promising. And then after that, I spent a lot of years to try to answer another question, that is, how do you fish score with basically using robots? So traditional studies of how do fish score, they mainly rely on tracking. So they have video records, and then they track individual, and then based on the tracking, they will assume if these two individuals are very close, they are exchanging information, or from the vision topology stuff, if I can see the other individual, I assume they're interact or exchange some information there, or based on other like topologic stuff or well-known kind of stuff. So all of those are based on some assumption, say, okay, whether these two individuals has information exchange or not. This is kind of like relatively strong assumption, like especially, for example, in the train station or something, you can go very close to some strangers and you have zero information interaction there, and you just accidentally, in geometrically or physically, very close to that individual, but that's not necessary to have information exchanged. So this is kind of like a Chinese old saying, like you're not fish, then how can you know whether fish is happy or not? So basically, kind of this question is very hard to really solve, because it's more about philosophy. And unless you can talk to fish, of course. If you can talk to fish, you can ask whether hey, who you are talking to, right? But now I don't think we can. So then how to solve it? The way we solve it is kind of if we have a robot system, and this robot system can help us talk to the real fish system, and then we can control the robot and then observe how the behavior of the real fish reacts to the robot, and then we can understand interaction, right? So this is kind of the philosophy behind it. Like we have a kind of a robot system to help us talk to the real fish, and then we study behavior. But the problem is, I mean, especially with this robotic fish system stuff, those robotic fish are very less efficient comparing to real fish system because of motor, because of material, because of control, a lot of limitation there. So, for example, I can't immediately make the robotic fish swim from one state to another state as real fish do. So, which means I can't really give the right stimulus to the real fish system as I wish. So in this case, there's this robotic fish. It's a good idea, but still not doable for a lot of behavior tests. Then we turn to virtual robotic fish. So because a lot of fish are heavily reliant on vision, so if we can have a virtual robotic fish there, and we can fully control it, and then we can make the robot interact with real fish system, and then we can observe the real fish behavior reacts to what we control for the virtual robot, then we can understand the behaviors behind. Then the question would be, how can we create a virtual world for fish? For human, most of us know, like if you want to have, getting into the virtual world, you have to wear a glass. And maybe you can also give a glass to birds, but I think giving to fish will be very challenging. First, the fish, they are swimming under the water, and the glass will also affect the flow stuff, as I described before. So you can't really solve it with a glass. And then luckily we can solve it with some very small, a very simple trick that is kind of the still photo thing. Like I guess most of you have this experience, like you walk on the streets, there's like street art, this 2D painting that gives you really strong 3D effect. And the trick behind it is you have to look at the image in the right direction, right? If you look at it in the wrong direction, it's distorted. So here is the video. I think Ian already presents this probably, basically kind of demonstrate how powerful of this technology for us especially. So before that, you probably most of us believe that is object instead of is 2D painting there, right? And even we know that is kind of just a paper there. And when the guy put it in the right view for us, we still can't really ourselves that is a paper instead of object. And even you zoom in, you can't really tell. So based on this is the one kind of we created a platform. We have a virtual fish there, and with the platform on the right side, we have 4 cameras which can track real fish position in real time and according to real fish position and also orientation, and to project the right 2D image to make the real fish always thinking they are swimming in the 3D environment. So this animation shows the box we have there. We have many boxes in Constance like this. So there's 4 cameras above, and there's a bowl inside. There's a bowl here, and fish can swim inside, and we can project according to real fish position. And then, well, we kind of, yes.
But just one question. I understand whether the virtual fish will create any vorticity because it's just a image.
It can't.
But then the effect of the vorticity of the leader is not accounted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So my topic looks like a bit like contradict. Like you talk about the importance of hydrodynamics, and then in this case you say, oh, hydrodynamics is not important.
Yeah. And I was something else. I mean, this setup looks quite small compared to the size of the fish, talking about 15 centimeters. So sort of the boundary effects, the hydrodynamics here will be very strong, right?
Yes. So that's why we use maximum 1 centimeter fish in this setup. So in that one, we have to consider hydrodynamics has to control relatively big fish. Without hydrodynamics, we can use small fish.
Okay, that's a good trick.
Right. So we never can have a platform to solve every problem, right? So the right platform for right question. That's why we want to build another platform like a virtual one for small fish and a big one with flow dynamic stuff for big fish. Yeah. Clear? Okay. Now we go to another philosophy question, right? How can you demonstrate the real fish think the virtual fish is a real fish or not? Right? Otherwise, you can't use the virtual fish to study, collect behavior properly. Because if whatever the visual stimulus there is not like a real fish system, then you can't use that to study collect behavior. Unfortunately, I can't give you the answer philosophically whether from real fish's brain, whether real fish think that is real fish or virtual fish. But we are studying, or we are more interested in behavioral questions. So if the real fish behaviorally react to a real fish, very similar to a virtual fish, then we can use this platform to study behavior question. Right. So how can we demonstrate this? Like real fish reacts to a virtual fish very similar to a real fish system. So what we did is we first run experiments with 2 real fish in the same arena. So in this case, they are interacting physically in the same world. And then we analyze how the individual will react if based on the neighbor's position. Like if you are here, I will go up, or if you are left, then right, I will go right. If you're left, I will go left. And then you can have a plot like this way to show how you turn left, how you go up, how you speed up, how you slow down. And then we run experiments in the VR and in the system we call matrix system. So within this matrix system, we have 2 identical VR systems. So in this 2 identical systems, there are 2 real fish in the 2 identical environment or the bowls. And there's a virtual fish, it's fully controlled by the real fish in the other bowl. So basically kind of 2 real fish in a parallel world talking to each other with avatars. And those avatars are controlled by the real fish in the other world. So in this sense, the 2 real fish, actually they're interacting with each other, but just connected with avatars, with the virtual fish there. And then we can do the same analysis as how real fish will react to the neighbor's position based on neighbor's position. And then we find they are very similar, regardless the neighbor is real or virtual. So in this case, we can at least use our system to understand behavior question. Is this clear?
So the matrix interaction, it's purely based on the vision. They cannot feel each other proximity, of course.
They can't have, we don't have any flow there.
And do you like, because if they, I imagine if in the matrix version, they could swim through each other.
They can.
But do they sort of do that, or do they tend to try to avoid each other?
Occasionally, yes, they do.
Occasionally, they swim through each other.
Yes, that's yeah. This one is not very strong because we filter a little bit. Not filtered. You can see something like here. It's a little bit different when they are very close. The repulsion force is not really as strong as the physical one.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit different, yeah. Good. Then.
But why would that happen? Like, so why would that happen? Is that because all of a sudden fish doesn't believe anymore that that's the real fish, or do you actually see collisions in when it's the two real fish in the same tank?
Yeah, if you
collide, do they collide?
If you ask me. I would answer like there's a reason for fish to evolve. It's like mechanical sensing, like the electronic stuff. And so
they're missing a sensor in there.
exactly, we don't have those fluid information or mechanical sensor information for the fish when they're very close.
Yeah, at some point that has to kick in, and they will get a signal, but that's not happening.
Yeah, that's not happening in the system.
I see.
So those sort of 3D illusions, they don't work if you look at it too close up, right?
Yes.
And you-
Well, those questions would be very hard for this platform to, those questions like you're focused on, for example, hydrodynamic compression stuff. You
Right,
can't use this platform.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can use those to understand like what we talked yesterday, like the three dome problem, or like if you're weighted too far, how you attract each other and so on.
Yeah, there's
Like the-
basically a distance beyond which is not reliable anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But good thing is, fish swim less. I mean, especially for this case, they stay closer, very, very less comparing to, with relative large distance.
Right.
So most time they keep relative big distance.
Right.
One question, because you can control, as far as I understood, the size of the fish in your simulation. So could
Yes.
you then check that then you are within the right landscape to your simulation?
Yes, we did a lot of experiments like those. So probably I didn't include in this slides, but I also talked to Jay yesterday. So for example, in our case, there's a kind of puzzle for fish, could be puzzle for fish. Why? Because in our case, if the object very close to the real fish, the object will be very big. Because for example, like if I look at the glass here, if I look very far away, the scene over my retina will be very small. But if I go very close, like this way, then all my retina is covered by the glass. So it's very big, it's huge. But the other case could be the glass itself could be very big, right? Even like my distance is large, but the glass is very big. Then I need to project a very big thing in the arena, and then you also cover the full eye arena things for the fish. Then how the fish can distinguish whether I'm too close to the object or the object is very big. And we did experiments here, and we do find fish do able to distinguish this. So one of the hypotheses is kind of they have lateral line things, right? They can based on their lateral line sensing to estimate how far I moved. Like they have a distance, like if I see here, I see here, then there's a changing, and the size changing, retinal things changing, according calibrated by the distance I moved. Then I can calculate or distinguish whether this is a big thing or this is getting closer. Yeah. So we do test, for example, with different size of the fish, and also even distort the fish a bit. This is related to the next question about like how do fish sense like what kind of feature fish detect from the retina's view to get the social information. Basically, how they decode information based on the visual input, like deep learning stuff like those. What kind of feature they are relying on to find, okay, this is my neighbor and distance is X, Y, Z, like those. We're still working on it. We don't have any good results to show you yet, but hopefully 1 year later. But we do find the size does effect. Yep. No more questions?
We want to know what this is.
Okay, so this is a philosophy, another philosophy question. So it's called bird and S paradox. So it talks about a donkey, and he actually stands by just 2 bundles of hay, and exactly in between. So this guy is so poor that he wants always to find the optimal one, and because he's exactly in between, and he cannot. And then he think and think, and the more he thinks, and the more he will suffer the hungry. Right. So well, from the paradox, it says the guy will die until he can figure out the optimal one. And this one could be also very close to, I mean, this could also happen in the engineering system. For example, a self-driving car trying to avoid an object in front, the action turn left or turn right could be exactly the same reward for the self-driving system. And then the system has to, figure out the puzzle as quick as possible. Otherwise, the car will collide to the object in front. Then we want to ask whether fish also suffer this problem, and also if they suffer, how they solve this problem. So we give 2 identical leaders for the real fish, and we ask how the real fish will make decision there. And especially we can control the left-right distance between 2 virtual fish, and we see how the real fish make decision to follow which one. I know. Yes, quantum. So when the distance very small, they do average, and when the distance larger than threshold, they kind of bifurcate as just follow either left or right. So basically, kind of like when the distance is small, they just follow in between in average, and when distance larger, they just bifurcate either follows the left or the right.
Like 50% chance one or the other or something like that.
If they bifurcate it around 50%. Yeah. But then the interesting point would be around the threshold point, like this one, right? They kind of start to bifurcate, but didn't really bifurcate, and then what happens there? And from the modeling, we already find one interesting thing, that is near those bifurcation point, whenever the fish has to decide to change from average to bifurcation, the susceptibility here goes extremely high, which means a very small noise there will already make the animals make decision quickly. They don't need to struggle there. So, and also if you have multiple targets here like those, and then whenever there are the decision making is necessary at the point, at the position, then susceptibility goes extremely high, and then helps you to save time, effort to make decision very quickly.
How did you define susceptibilities?
I don't know. You can, because this is our proposed is the modeling system here, and all of those derived based on modeling. So all of those, I think you can find from this paper, if you're interested in the details, how they get those susceptibility stuff and how they define mathematically.
You can see it's a string theorist on the top right corner, so should be safe. I've seen this on a previous string theorist.
This Ising model, what are the spin variables for this? Because you see this is an Ising model for.
Yeah, it's Ising model. So they assimilate like each neuron as one Ising like spin. And then based on those, they can make decisions for individuals to either follow left one or right one or average.
Ah, I see.
Good.
Yeah, and then you have this, I remember this story, then you have these other bifurcations later, right?
Yes, so this is kind of sequential bifurcation stuff. This is like you,
when there's 3 followers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, three leaders.
Three leaders.
Yes. Okay. Another question about how do fish score is kind of when they follow each other.
Sorry, but then the logic is just it only depends on the distances pretty much. So
this one is not. I'm not talking about whether those decisions were related to distance or not. It will related to the susceptibility whenever at the distance you have to make decisions. So which means when I move here, and then at this point, my system asks me, okay, now you have to make decision. Right. And this decision is very hard to make.
I understand, but if there's a fluctuation and the distance in one leader changed a little bit, I guess he's gonna.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Something like those. Yeah. Something like those that we were yes, exactly. But then your question is more about like where is the point the fish has to make decision?
No, my question was more about you know, it's only the distance, it's only fluctuations in the distance that will make the fish at that point choose one or the other. I think this is what.
This is one type of noise.
Right.
So you can also, for example, your internal noise, like in your brain, you have, you know, think something, you just or thought some sad thing before, like you suffer, and then you got very suddenly turn left, then you just decide to turn right. This could also.
But you're modeling that in the model.
Yeah.
Okay. Some randomness in.
So those random size could come in from internal, also could come in from external.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever noise there could be. Yeah. Well, it is supposed like this way. The other one I want to share with you is about kind of the link between control theory and also the like behavior control stuff. So in the fish in the experiments, you can already know the logic. Basically, we have vision input for every fish, and then fish will make decision after the receiving the vision stimulus. Then we wonder how the loop works, right? So there's a connection between the control theory and also the biologic system. And one of the pioneers, Norbert Wiener, he already have a book talks about this. So what we did basically take advantage of this virtual reality system to very deeply, detailed explore one rule if we find. So first we get a very simple rule of the follower is following a leader. So once the follower is trying to following a leader, what is the rule should be, or what is the rule of the fish should be. And then once we find this rule, you can test the assumption of this rule. What is the assumption of this rule? Whether this is true for fish, and you can test this assumption experimentally with this machine. And then you can also challenge this rule by asking, okay, if fish apply this rule, what kind of the properties could be derived, kind of predict based on the rule? What kind of specific behavior could be predicted based on the rule? And then you can back to experiment to test whether the predictions are true or not. And also you can extend this rule. This rule often is, leader follower is kind of two individual system. Whether this also can be scalable to large number of collectives. So all of those, we basically kind of extract the rule, testing the assumption of the rule, and test the prediction power of the rule, and also test the stability of the rule. So the rule is very simple. What we find here is basically kind of the turning speed control or forward speed control if you try to follow another individual. And the input is very simple, that is basically your neighbor's position. Output is kind of your speed. And from the experiments and comparing to the model prediction, they match quite well if the leaders swim faster or slower and so on. Then the assumption in this model could be no speed input, just the position stuff. Is this true? Like fish do not need to sense the speed information. So speed also has kind of two types of speed. One is instantaneous speed. The other one could be average speed. And average speed could be short time average speed or long time average speed. So based on this, we can also test this one by one to see whether fish use any type of those speed. So the first one is instantaneous speed. So basically we can control the robot fish in virtual robot fish with burst glide pattern or constant speed. And on average, they are the same. If fish pay more about the details, like instantaneous speed, then the behavior should be different. And we didn't find there's any difference here. So it indicates that those detailed instantaneous speed is not very critical. And then the short time average speed, what we test is basically control the visibility of the virtual fish. This is something is very unique for the virtual fish. You can't really control any physical robots appear, disappear. Because when the virtual fish disappear, they're supposed to have zero information transferred to the real fish. So you only have, only when the virtual fish is appeared, then there's a chance the fish can get information from the virtual fish. Then you can control the disappearing time to control the average information transfer. And if fish use the average of the position information, then they will have a short time average or long time average based on the disappearing period. And we also, again, didn't find any difference. And then you can also test the kind of the fresh update, like see TV stuff. If the picture is moving up to 24 hertz, then we think that is a movie. And if update very slow, we think the picture it's jerk. So this way we can also control the update frequency, and we see up to until around 5 hertz, fish cannot really tell the difference there. And 5 hertz is around 200 milliseconds. That is actually very close to 1 burst and glide period. So fish that swim accelerate, glide, and this period is around 200 milliseconds. This indicates that over this 1 burst glide, there's 1 sampling perception, and then like this. And also, after we check the assumption, we also want to check the prediction power, like what kind of rule can predict whether this rule is true for the real fish system. So one of the predict, of course, is following behavior, whether the following a leader is dynamically changing state, dynamically changing orientations, whether this will still work or not. And we find yes. And then we also test with real fish system, because if a real fish as a leader, I find a follower is weird, then my behavior will be different, right? So in this case, we can ask a real fish to check whether the following guy is natural or not. This we call Turing test for the real fish system. So in the matrix system, we control the virtual fish with our rule whenever the virtual fish is a follower. But in the other arena, that is real fish following the same leader. So in this case, you can compare your rule versus a real follower following the same leader, and we can have a comparison here. This indicates that the real fish already kind of also accept the follower's behavior is natural. Another prediction is whenever there are 2 leaders, as we presented before, whether the real fish will also do bifurcation stuff, and we find yes, they do. Also want to understand why fish use this BioPD, this algorithm, and then we can deploy this controller to robot system, and then we can also design artificial system, optimal controller, and then we can compare this performance between these 2 algorithms. And we find the performance of the algorithm used with the fish system is close to optimal in both 3 systems. And also could scale to large number of robot stuff with the same controller, and they can move with circling, and also moving to follow a very complex trajectory. Like CASCB is the logo of our cluster central study of advanced, the Center of Advanced Study of Flight Behavior. And also we test with a bunch of robots. They're following the real fish trajectory, which is very complex. They're changing, angles, speed dynamically.
So they're using the same rule, I suppose?
Yes. they're using the same rule, and also have burst glide pattern stuff, like very complex U-turn.
But why are they not splitting apart?
Because they're following, because we are testing the following algorithm stuff.
Yeah, I understand, but
But topologically, some in these weird shapes, they would maybe fall
Collide each other?
closer. They're getting closer to each other. Like I was when I was on this moving these turns.
Yeah.
Maybe the first and the third are closer than the second and the third, and then you maybe get that happens with slots. Like if you turn, you have a change in the relative order.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Like in flocks, when in straight lines, it's fine the way you show, but when you change make turns in flocks, you may change the relative order of the individuals in the flocks because the equilibrium distance change across the flock.
Yes, in that case, they have random things there, but we don't have any random things here. So here we just test the following algorithm. So it's designed to you should follow the front individuals.
yeah, that's the only interaction they have.
Yeah, this is the only interaction.
And it's very sensitive on the initial
Yes,
configuration.
Exactly.
That's why not crazy stuff is not happening.
no,
Yeah.
But they only follow the front that was pre-designed. Like if the topology of the path makes the closer one someone else, they will not follow that one.
Of course, if you have very complex things like, for example, cross each other, and then they might collide with each other, and they
Yeah, but imagine that this does a kind of loop kind of thing, the path that they have to follow, and now the front, the leader one, is closer to someone in the middle.
yes, then
But
they
he will not start following the middle, or
no.
no. They really, that's the question. You really guided them so that
Yes,
this one only follows that one, and this one only follows.
this is only just the following rule without any other rules. Yeah. Okay, so the last several minutes, just want to emphasize the kind of reciprocally interact or studies between biology and robotics. We want to put biology to inspire our robotics to build better robots, and this better robot could be used for us to understand the biology questions better. So the first platform is the robotic fish. So we have a schooling robotic fish, and this robotic fish is supposed to have same morphology and also swim with the same kinematics as real fish, and also have the same body undulation pattern. So everything we are trying to try our best to keep as close as possible for the robot to replay the movements of the real fish system. And by doing so, we can collect very detailed information input through those robot systems, and then we can estimate what kind of potential hydrodynamics could be collected for the fish, what kind of potential visual input could be collected by the real fish. And based on that, we can map to the behavior of the real fish system, whether it's speed up, turning left to right, and so on. Then we can understand the detailed sensory modality things, sensory motor control things in the fish system. And this one kind of summarizes what we had now for the roboting things. It ranges from the smallest robotic fish here is around 1 centimeter to large robotic fish here around 50 centimeters. And also from virtual robot to all those real robots, and also from individual one to swarm one. Yeah, so just acknowledge all of my collaborators and also my founding sponsors, and also thank you guys for your time and attention. Happy to take more questions.
So if I may, so do you think the rule you found for fish will apply for birds, some other stuff, or you think it's very fish dependent?
So far, I can only say it could be just this our fish, could be even our fish at this age,
Okay, okay.
or even say the fish in some environment like temperature, for example, sometimes temperature also changes behavior stuff. So their biological system is very complicated. So we want to kind of, study, for example, very complex behavior step by step. We first focus on one small behavior, and then later we can, more, and then we can understand. So far, I can't really answer your question whether this rule also works like general for whatever species. Probably no.
But for other swimmers, fish-like swimmers, like sperms or this like.
I have no idea. We need to test it. We can test it, definitely.
And of course, also multiple explanations could be true at the same time.
Yeah, could be. Exactly. This we talked yesterday, like whether there are multiple rules which can explain the same phenomenon stuff, and which one could be the truth for the animal system. That's why we want to test with our virtual assistant to test the model like from lots of different aspects, like the assumption of the model, the prediction of the model, and the application of the model, and so on.
So in your group, are also people looking at human behavior, crowd?
We are doing something, but not really in motion. We do, for example, game theory stuff. That people play game, and then whether they can cooperate.
Can you also change the viscosity of the fluid? Do you think that depends? That would affect their behavior?
Yeah, for sure. For example, there's always a delay. Okay. So, for example, like this size, the viscosity should be very strong versus this case even, right? So in this case, we study like 1 centimeter zebrafish larvae interact with zebrafish larvae. They're very small, like 3 to 4 millimeter or something like those. Viscosity could be very strong there. So in that case, the force sensing could be more about like very closer than they can have interactions with hydrodynamics, even closer compared to this case. Viscosity does affect. And also, one of the things we are solving the problem with motor, because our motors cannot really flap very fast, like real fish do. The way we do is kind of keep the same Reynolds number, and scale the fish, and slow down the flapping, and then hope we can get similar, understanding of the hydrodynamic stuff here. Yeah.
Back nowadays, more fish has highest Reynolds number. So then, how do you make this?
Small fish has lowest Reynolds number. Yes.
Can you just make it faster? So.
Oh, for small fish, we don't need to really. Well, sometimes we also need to scale it because too small, we can't really build that small robots. So basically, kind of, if the Reynolds number is very high, then we can build like big wing or big fish, and then slow down the flapping motion and stuff, and then you can run to get the same Reynolds number there. You get the point, or yeah.
Okay. At some point, you mentioned in a slide different explanations for why fish school, or how fish school, like the mechanism, whether it's topological or
Yes.
based on vision or based on some other energy saving or predator avoiding.
Yes.
Are these things that you wish to also examine, to figure out the most important mechanism, or to see? Because there are different aspects of that in your work.
Yes. So in that one, first I need to clarify. I focus on more about energy saving stuff, right? So I choose all of those cases. I think when, for example, when the two fish getting closer, they have higher chance to consider energy saving. rather than like predator avoiding, because you know they swim together, then low predator. They shouldn't consider predator avoiding behavior as that case.
Yeah.
But then if you are interested, for example, predator avoiding or predator hunting stuff, then you should design specific experiments where you have a predator, you have a prey, and then see how they interact there. So
And like virtual predators.
of course you can do, yeah, but that is beyond my ability. But this is the Ian's focus. If you look at Ian's work, it ranges covers everything, whatever objective that is his interest. But it's beyond my ability. I can only focus on one thing.
Yeah. Well, if there are no more questions, let's thank the speaker again.
Thank you.
Afterwards, we'll have lunch after.